All right, we're back to trouble in Tiger Town. The game yesterday at Leichhardt Oval against the Newcastle Knights. It was a terrible day for Tigers and their fans. I mean, given the circumstances, Ponga, Brayley out at the start of the game, not to return. 10 in the bin to Dom Young. Saifiti sent off. But it wasn't even
Frizzell?
It wasn't even that. Frizzell gone with injury. It was just the performance at home at Leichhardt Oval. Round 2, it was pretty tragic.
You know what I find amazing, Braith, and I think I said the same thing last week. You know, they spent an off-season working on their attack. Everyone at that club told you how they'd spent the entire off-season working on their attack. In the first 2 weeks, their attack has been a mess. They've dropped so much ball, they've made so many errors, and it just makes you wonder what they were doing.
Worst of all, though, Reedy, you can't actually find the direction that they're trying to do. No. Like the amount of times, you know, there's a period in the game where Coruscant looks around like, well, who wants the ball? Yeah. And you've seen the first receiver get the ball, catches it, looks around, and who can I pass to? They just sort of shuffle it out to an edge. Then they'll have a hit up. Then they'll shuffle it out to another edge, and there's just no strategy behind what they're doing.
In the second half yesterday, Luke Brooks a couple of times just ran sideways, looking for...
Trying to find something, trying to create something.
Yeah. And to me, they look like a confused football side. And I know we're going to get to talk about the coaching combination.
But whose fault's that, Buzz? Like, you know, they've had a whole pre-season. They've had three coaches, new coaches come in.
No, it's not one person, Braith.
That's what I mean. Right?
Well, they've got $1 million playmaker who's not playing like $1 million playmaker.
I don't think you can just blame the $1 million playmaker here. Like, the way they play, if there was a game plan that wasn't even close to being executed, there wasn't a player in the field, I believe, that did their assignment.
But what we heard about during the pre-season, Sheens has come back in. He's revived memories, 2005, short passes, changes in direction, all that sort of stuff that worked for them back then. They spent, to Rudy's point, they spent the summer working on their attack. Everybody was excited. And yet we've seen none of that so far. And we're just sitting there, and everybody's sitting here now. And the thing for the Tigers, and Carrie Arnott said it here last week, he said, I'm worried if they lose this game, they're 0-2, and this is 2 games that when you were the West Tigers, you would have sat down at the start of the year and we would have said, we're starting with the Titans at Leichhardt, and then we're going into the Knights at Leichhardt, 14th and 13th last year. They're 2 games we should win. If we're a team that we think we are, there's 2 games we put in the bank.
Yeah.
So now they're going to try and make the 8. This far out already, and they're 4 points down on what they would have expected to be at this point in the season.
They got Dogs, Storm, Broncos, Eels.
Yeah, but you asked whose fault it was.
Yeah, whose fault is it?
It's not Justin Pascoe, it's the chief executive. It goes back to the head coach. It's Tim Sheens' fault. He was responsible for pulling together that coaching staff that he has there with Benji.
This is all your ideas.
Exactly.
We've got to be a bit careful here.
This is your fault then.
Do I need to go back to what actually happened?
Yes.
When
How Buzz orchestrated
It's the
it.
back page of the paper.
We were at
It was on the back page.
It's there.
Grappa restaurant. Yeah, I knew you'd try.
Well, there you go. I knew you. What do you mean?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. And as
So
was
I asked
written
him, why don't you coach the team for a couple of years and mentor a young coach?
Why did, or
He
would
answered
you think
straight
about
away,
it?
yes, I'd consider
he put
that.
his hand straight
How's
up.
about
and
Charles
leave-
and Pascoe look shocked? Their eyes lit up.
Yeah, I just asked why. Have you asked people why would you have a go at this before?
Well, why would you jump off that bridge? I won't.
Can we get back? OK, even if it was half my idea, I still think the buck stops with the head coach. And when I use the word confused, the way this team's playing football, there's a saying about too many chefs or too many cooks in the kitchen, right? So they got Tim Sheens, they got Benji, who's really modern, they got Robbie, who's modern, and Sheens is 72. I have a suspicion...
Dave as well.
Sorry?
Dave Furness, the former head coach.
Good, Rick. I have a suspicion that the players are confused about the message they're getting, and these 4 people coming from different angles on the way to play football.
I reckon the problem with the club's bigger than that. I reckon they got Ivan Cleary in some years back, who had a look around the joint. First opportunity to get out, he left. They've won 2 premierships since. Then they brought in Mike Maguire, who'd won 2 premierships coming in, one at Wigan, one at South Sydney. Mike Maguire knows what a successful organisation looks like, and he had nothing but dead ends that he ran into when he was at Tigers. when he tried to change things to make it better, the club always pushed back on
He
him.
ran into a dead end at South too, can't he?
After winning the Premier, that might be the case, Buzz,
Yeah.
but he knows what success looks like. And every organisation that's successful has got people in the joint that knows what you need in place. That's why Phil Gould knows what the model looks like.
Yeah,
Wayne Bennett knows what the model looks like.
I was hoping... Mez wasn't working there.
He wasn't by that stage, Buzz,
Yeah.
because they disempowered him. By that stage, he was already shot. They'd already taken away whatever leverage he had within the joint to force change on the players because the club didn't back him. And the only thing that stayed consistent at the Tigers through a decade of mess is who's sitting in the big offices. They're the ones that have got to start looking at their own performance and fall on their sword, because they're the only ones that have been around from 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
We do have to remember it's 2 weeks into the season. Their start has been diabolical, but let's...
It's the fashion in which they've lost.
Exactly.
It's the
I
fashion.
use the word, it's diabolical. But there's a long season.
People were critical of Penrith last week, saying that they were in some trouble. Look what they did round two.
I wasn't critical of them.
I said people. So I think with the Tigers, you look at their performances, and I don't see the light. I don't see the light.
You look at the way the players they bought in the off-season. Coruscant, been disappointing through 2 games. Isaiah Papali'i was a good player at Parramatta. He's gone there and been beyond ordinary in the first 2 weeks. How have the guys gone so far backwards in 2 weeks?
Why aren't you asking, why didn't Tim Sheens let Luke Brooks go? Their $1 million halfback.
He would have gone. But they weren't willing to chip in money for him to go. They weren't willing to carry $400,000
They chipped in money for Hastings and did a deal with Clemmer.
Not what he's on.
I think they believe they could get the best out of him. Between Benji, Sheensy, in fact, I agree.
You just said it's 2 weeks. Don't give up, it's only 2 weeks, but now you're declaring Luke Brooks is dead and buried. You performed last rights on his career.
They're a club that's there's old saying, there's a difference between direction and motion. They're moving, but they're not going anywhere.
They're stuck in mud.